back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and I'm doing a deck tech here from March of the Machine. I put a poll in the video that I did of the top 10 commanders from that set, and I let you guys vote on which ones you wanted me to build. I'm going to build 2 commanders from that poll, and the first one I'm doing is Zimone and Dinah. Black, green, and a blue. Human Dryad 3/4. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, target opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Tap, sacrifice another creature, draw a card. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tap. If you control 8 or more lands, repeat this process once. Really fantastic commander, and also it is in Sultai colors, which is a really popular color combination of the format. I think this is going to be a really popular one from the set without question. There is a lot you can build around here. Obviously, drawing your second card each turn is a theme that's easy to build around because you want to be drawing cards in your commander deck anyway. And always when you're building around a theme or synergizing with your commander with regards to something you always want to be doing anyway in a commander game, it's really easy to build that strategy. We're also gaining life here. I built around that a little bit. We're sacrificing creatures. Of course, I'm building around that as well. There is a lot of different directions you can go with this commander. I'd say the one thing that I didn't really go after here, which you could, is putting lands into play. I didn't really do the landfall or land drop thing in this deck at all. I didn't really think it was that necessary. We will be making extra land drops here as we draw cards. Of course, they could be lands and then we can put them into play. There is a lot of directions you can go, and I went with most of them. That is the one that I didn't think I had enough room to put any of that in the deck. I just did my 3 tips for commander deck building video, and one of the things I talked about in that video is we want to be putting stuff in our deck that we would normally do anyway, and we do it in a way that synergizes with our commander. So of course our commander wants us to be sacrificing creatures, so we want to be in creature form here as much as possible. There are 45 creatures in this deck. That's a whole lot. In fact, it might even be the most I've ever put in a deck because of course we want lots of creatures in play so that we can be sacrificing them to our commander's ability. So if I'm putting ramp in the deck, I'm putting cards like Wood Elves and Yavimaya Elder. Those are cards that will get us lands, but are also creatures that we can then sacrifice to our commander's ability. Wood Elves will come into play, go get us the forest card, and then it's just going to sit there and we can sacrifice it at a later time to our commander or to some other effect. We do have a few other sacrifice effects in the deck. Yavimaya Elder is a particularly interesting one because when it dies, we get to search our library for 2 basic land cards and put them in our hand, but also we can pay to sacrifice Yavimaya Elder to draw a card. So we can use this as, of course, it's a creature that wants to die. We can sacrifice it to our commander to go get those lands, or we can sacrifice it to its own ability to go get the lands and also get a card draw trigger off of it as well. So if we need that second card draw on a particular turn, we can sacrifice our Yavimaya Elder to get it. Of course, removal as well. I got Reclamation Sage, Ravenous Chupacabra, right? We have our artifact, enchantment, and creature removal in creature form here. They come into play. They give us the effect that we want, and then we can just sacrifice them at a later time to our commander. Obviously, the second card draw each turn scenario is something that they've been doing quite a bit recently. As I talked about in that video, Gixian Puppeteer and Gurgling Anointer are particularly fantastic in this theme. They are both creatures that we want to be drawing our second card each turn, so it fits with the theme of the deck. They also are creatures that kind of want to be dying. At least we get an effect off of them when they die, so we can sacrifice them to get another creature out of the graveyard that we have sacrificed earlier in the game possibly, or when they die we can even get our commander out of the graveyard with them, right? Gixian Puppeteer says whenever it dies, return target creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That will include our commander, of course. Gurgling Anointer, whenever we draw our second card each turn, it puts a +1/+1 counter on itself, and when it dies we return another target creature with mana value less than or equal to Gurgling Anointer's power from our graveyard to the battlefield. So it's got no counters on it. We can get a 1, but it's going to be very easy for us to put counters on it. Once we get that power up to like 3, we can pretty much get most of the creatures in our deck, again, including our commander. In particular, though, the cards that are creating creatures when we draw our second card, like Ethereal Investigator and Jolriel Wunvali Recluse, which are both going to be creating creature tokens when we draw our second card each turn, right? Ethereal Investigator. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, we'll create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying, and Jolriel will create a 2/2 green cat creature token. So when we get the trigger off of our commander, we will then create another creature that we can then sacrifice to our commander's ability at a later time, and we can really sort of go off here. First of all, we have cards like Dark Prophecy and Erebos, which draw us cards when we sacrifice creatures, right? Our commander is drawing us a card when we activate its sacrifice ability, so if we can get another card draw off of that creature dying, we've now drawn 2 cards, and we will get that trigger again, assuming we do it on the next turn, right? And both of these cards are totally okay with us sacrificing token creatures, which can be really, really important. Both of these are draining our life, which of course is really common with card draw in black, but of course, don't forget, our commander is gaining us life, so we're not going to be out anything here. The other important part of this interaction, though, of course, is that our commander is tapping, so if we can untap it, now we can start doing this on every single person's turn. Thornbite Staff and Tellurian Kraken are going to be fantastic ways to do this. Thornbite Staff says whenever a creature dies, untap the equipped creature. So every time we activate our commander's ability, if we're going to be sacrificing a creature, it's going to be dying, so we will untap our commander so that we can use it again. Tellurian Kraken will be untapping our commander as well, but in a different way. Whenever you draw a card, you may pay 1. When you do, you may tap or untap target creature. And of course, our commander's ability is drawing a card, so when we activate that ability, it will trigger our Tellurian Kraken. We can pay 1 and then untap our commander. So with a lot of these different cards in play, say a card that is creating tokens when we draw our second card, a card that is drawing us a card when a creature dies, and a card that is untapping our commander, it's very easy for us to activate our commander's ability on every player's turn and then get the trigger from our commander on every player's turn, and draining our opponent for 2 life every single turn is pretty darn good. That's essentially the way you're going to win with this deck, right? I also put a whole bunch of creatures in this deck that you might not see very often in a commander game, like Surveilling Sprite and Palace Familiar, because these creatures will draw us a card when they die. So all on their own, they're going to be getting us that trigger off of our commander, right? When we sacrifice Surveilling Sprite with our commander, it's dying, it's drawing us a card, and we're also getting the card draw off of our commander. So now we have fulfilled that draw 2 cards per turn. Since we are probably obviously going to be drawing a card on our turn, cards like this I would save for another opponent's turn, right? On our turn, we can just sacrifice any creature, and now we have gotten the 2 card draws. On our opponent's turn, I would save these creatures so that we can sacrifice them on our opponent's turn and then get the 2 card draw trigger. Any card draw trigger type of effects like Chasm Skulker and Psychosis Crawler are going to be great because we are going to be drawing lots of cards. Chasm Skulker, again, is that creature that wants us to be drawing cards. It also kind of wants to die because when it does so, it creates a bunch of blue squid tokens that, again, we now have more sack fodder for. So it's going to be a fantastic fit in the deck for a number of reasons. And of course, Psychosis Crawler, again, is a little bit of a win con here because whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. So this is going to speed up the process, draining our opponents for more life. Remember, we're drawing 2 cards on every single turn here. So this is going to be draining our opponents for 2 life on every single player's turn if the scenario plays out the way we want to. Let's not forget we are gaining life, and there is a lot that we can use with that. I actually put Dinah Soul Steeper in the deck. Obviously, this is part of the pairing that is with our commander. I thought this one fit. I didn't put Zimone in because I didn't really think that fit with what we were doing. It could, I guess. I thought Dinah was a little bit of a better fit because whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. So again, this is going to sort of speed up the process where every time we get the trigger off of our commander, now all of our opponents will lose 3 life because, of course, we're gaining life. Also is a sack outlet as well, and I do want to have a few other sack outlets in the deck. Witch of the Moors is a great one. 3 black, Human Warlock 4/4 with Death Touch at the beginning of your end step. If you gained life this turn, each opponent sacrifices a creature, and you return up to 1 target creature from your graveyard to your hand. As I've said before, I think this card is a slam dunk in any deck that's black that is getting life gain triggers fairly regularly. All we have to do is draw 2 cards on our turn, which is very, very easy, and all of our opponents will have to sacrifice a creature, and we'll get that creature, maybe the one we just sacrificed, back out of our graveyard and put it into our hand. Fantastic fit here. We got some interesting ones from C21 in the life gain theme in green that I think are a pretty good fit here. Blossoming Bog Beast and Ezerut Channeler. Blossoming Bog Beast, again, can be a little bit of a win con here. When it attacks, you gain 2 life, then creatures you control gain trample and get +X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. So of course, our Blossoming Bog Beast is already gaining us 2 life. We get another +2 from our commander when we trigger that ability. Now our entire team gets a +4/+4 until end of turn. So just the Bog Beast alone is going to be a 7/7, and then all of our other creatures as well, of course. Ezra Channeler is going to be particularly good here. Remember, we are drawing lots of cards, so we are going to be wanting to play lots of stuff, and Ezra Channeler is going to make it easier for us because creature spells you cast cost X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. And of course, we got 45 creatures in this deck, so it's very likely that we'll be drawing creatures when we get all those card draw. You can also tap it to gain 2 life, so now if we get the trigger off of our commander, now all of our creatures for this turn are going to cost 4 less to cast, which is pretty much going to get rid of all of the generic mana from all of the creatures in this deck. So it's going to be reducing those costs by quite a bit. Other fantastic includes that I put in this deck: Catacomb Sifter, 1 black and a green Eldrazi drone 2/3, has Devoid. When Catacomb Sifter enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token onto the battlefield. It has sacrificed this creature, add 1 colorless to your mana pool, which can be good. This is giving us sack fodder if we need it. It also is a creature that sacrifices itself, which can be important. More importantly though, whenever another creature you control dies, scry 1. It doesn't seem like a fantastic effect to get off of your dice triggers. This is a card that got played a lot in Modern. I saw it all the time because scrying 1 can be a lot more valuable in other formats. Scrying 1 in Commander isn't nearly as good. However, I like it combined with the draw off of our commander, right? We're going to sacrifice a creature to draw a card. Of course, that's going to trigger our Catacomb Sifter when we sacrifice that creature, and we can scry 1 to see what's on top of our library, which we're about to draw. And a lot of times, say we want to make that land drop because we are putting a land into play from our commander. If what we see on top is not a land, we can tuck it on the bottom and hopefully draw a land so that we can then put it into play. So I think with all of the drawing we're doing combined with the dice triggers, this scry 1 is actually going to come in handy quite a bit. I also have sort of a backup for our commander in Priest of Forgotten Gods. 1 and a black human cleric, 1/2. Tap, sacrifice 2 other creatures. Any number of target players each lose 2 life, and sacrifice a creature. You add 2 black and draw a card. So this is another creature in our deck that has the tap ability, that is sacrificing, that is drawing us cards, also forces our opponents to sacrifice. It's losing them life, right? It is sort of a backup for our commander in a way. It's doing a lot of the similar things that our commander is doing. So I think it fits nicely into the deck. It's going to get us those draw triggers. We can use the untappers with it as well, whether it be the Thornbite Staff or the Tellurian Kraken, both will work with this creature. So I thought it was a great backup for our commander. I put Pharika, God of Affliction, in this deck, and I thought that was a neat fit because another thing you could do with this deck is a bit of a recursion theme because of course you're sacrificing your creatures all the time. I didn't really do that here. Again, didn't really have the room for it because there was already so many things I was doing already. This is a great way to take advantage of all those creatures you're sacrificing later in the game. We can slap down our Pharika, and then all those little creatures that we have in our graveyard, we can now start turning them into 1/1 black and green snake enchantment creature tokens with Death Touch, which are going to be really handy. Having creatures with Death Touch is always great in the commander format, but also of course they're sack fodder, right? If at some point we start to run out of steam here, those will turn those creatures in our graveyard into creatures that we can sacrifice with our commander's ability if we need to. I also did put Faces of the Past in the deck. I had mentioned this, I think, in the spoiler video that I did, and it's a card that I've been wanting to try to use in a deck for a long time, and I thought it might actually work here. 2 and a blue, enchantment. Whenever a creature dies, tap all untapped creatures that share a creature type with it, or untap all tapped creatures that share a creature type with it. Now, obviously, we want to use this to untap our commander. That's the thinking here. This can be a very handy card in a commander game, right? If your opponent is playing, say, an elf tribal deck, you can, at instant speed before they attack, kill one of their creatures. Now an elf has died, and your Faces of the Past will trigger, and you can use it to tap down down all elf creatures in play. So there can be some situations like that where that card can come in handy, but mostly it's in the deck, of course, to untap our commander. Now, what is our commander's creature type? It's a human and it's a dryad. We do have a fair amount of humans in this deck. Most commander decks are going to incidentally have a lot of humans in the deck. So if we have, say, our Eternal Witness in play, we can now sacrifice our Eternal Witness because we've already gotten what we want off of it. It is a human that's dying. So now we can untap all humans in play, and this can be used to untap our commander. You certainly could go more down this route where you put like a conspiracy or something like that in the deck, change all your creature types to human so that your commander will be untapping every single time you sacrifice a creature. I didn't go down that road too much because I just don't like the situation where we don't get our Faces of the Past and we just have our conspiracy, and that's not very good in the deck without it. However, if you are thinking of going down that road, there's another card, Haunted One, which also is a pretty good fit here, and I'm going to talk about this in a video coming up because I think it's a great card that can go in a lot of decks, particularly if your commander has a tap ability, because what it says is commander creatures you own have, whenever this creature becomes tapped, it and other creatures you control that share a creature type with it each get +2/+0 and gain Undying until end of turn. So again, this does fit that whole creature type theme. You could go down that road maybe a little bit if you wanted to do a little bit of a jankier strategy with this commander, and really pretty powerful one if you can get the right cards in play, because of course, again, when we tap our commander, now all our human and dryad creatures in this deck are going to get +2/+0 and Undying. Now, why I like this card particularly with a commander that is tapping is of course because we can very easily use our commander on our opponent's turns, and if they cast a board wipe, at the very least we can sacrifice any of our creatures, and we are now tapping down our commander, so it will trigger our Haunted One, and our commander gets Undying. It's just a way to protect our commander so that when that board wipe resolves, our commander, of course, will come back out of the graveyard with a +1/+1 counter on it. For me, that's sort of the worst case scenario here. And then again, if we happen to have, say, that Eternal Witness in play, it's also a human. We do have a decent amount of humans in the deck, so now that Eternal Witness is also going to get Undying. It will die and then come back into play as well. So I thought that was a pretty good fit, and I really do think there's an interesting direction you can go with this commander using Faces of the Past and Haunted One, because they both want your commander to be sharing creature types with all your other creatures. And of course, human particularly is a very popular creature type in the format, so it would be an interesting way to go with this commander. There's a lot of interesting ways to go with this commander, right? This is a really great commander. Again, on top of all the fantastic abilities you have here to build around, it's also in those colors that everyone tends to like. So I think this will be a popular one in the format for sure. I'm not at all surprised that it won the poll. It was a pretty easy commander to build around for sure. If you are interested, as I'm sure a lot of people will be, in building this deck, the deck list that I have made here is in the description. Feel free to check it out if you want to. But that is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.